Oh, David, one last question before we go live.
Mm-hmm.
Is it, for tribal affiliation, is it okay if I just say Ojibwe?
Sure. Yeah.
Is it okay? Okay.
Yep.
I would try the other one, but I didn't do very well in French, so I think it'd be more.
Oh, Hillary, will you unmute the participants for the introductions part in the beginning?
Oh, totally, for sure.
Yep.
Probably after your presentation, when everybody comes in, you can start
Okay.
having a dialogue if that works for you.
Yep. And then when I get back into the COVID environment slides, we'll mute them again.
Okay, David, I'm about to go live on Facebook. Okay, thank you everybody for joining us for another week of awesome FPF Resilience webinar series topics. My name is Hillary Pressigan. I am the Program Manager of Community Development for the Native Arts Professional Development Training here at First Peoples Fund and your host today for this virtual webinar session. The FPF Resilience webinar series has been developed to continue our work to enhance the business and entrepreneurial skills of Native artists and culture bearers, as well as expand our virtual community through these rapidly changing times. This monthly webinar series, First Peoples Fund, and our nationally recognized Native Arts Professional Development, or NAPD, trainers will provide values-based, topic-focused webinars on Mondays, followed by technical assistance office hours on Wednesdays to follow up on and answer any questions regarding the Monday webinar. The next upcoming webinar that we have for the FPF Resilience webinar series is titled Success of the Artist Journey with Time Management. That'll be on September 14th and 16th. And our presenter is NAPD trainer Valerie Janice of the Bay Mills Ojibwe Nation. To find out more information, we will in the next couple weeks have a Facebook event posted, as well as have this on our Facebook, as well as our First Peoples Funds page for registration for that event. Quickly, I just want to say hi to everybody on Facebook as well as Zoom. Thank you for joining us. It's so good to see you all. Some other really cool August virtual programming that we have is through the Rolling Res Arts program. This program is dedicated to bring folks in Indian country and the surrounding communities the expertise and disciplines of artists within the First Peoples Fund family. For the month of September coming up, we have on the virtual road on Wednesday, September 23rd with Taryn Last Gun at 7 p.m. Mountain until 8 p.m. Mountain. And then on Saturday Art Live, which is going to be September 5th, we have Polina Kili Hula with live music from Jeff Peterson. That's going to be from 5 p.m. Mountain until about 6:10 p.m. Mountain time. Again, both of those events will be on our Facebook page. In the world of fellowships, this is the last week one can apply for our fellowships and CSA nominations. We're accepting applications until a week from today at 5 p.m. Mountain time. So definitely get your applications in because we'd love to see everybody take part in those two great opportunities. If you have any questions, please check out our Facebook page for more information, as well as our First Peoples Fund website for more information. So just a few reminders to everyone listening before we start. This is a recorded webinar, which will be available within 48 hours of the webinar concluding on our Facebook YouTube page. I will be sharing the link and some of the information I shared earlier in my intro in both the Zoom chat as well as in Facebook Live. So be on the lookout for that. This is going to be a 1-hour presentation by David with a 30-minute Q&A. And I will be collecting the questions off of Facebook Live, so please share any sort of questions you have, and I will share them with David. For those who are participating through Zoom, at the end of his 1-hour presentation, we're going to bring everybody in to have a virtual Q&A with him as well, so you can actually have some one-on-one time with him as a group. Okay. Before we start this webinar, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that the land that First Peoples Fund is on and where I'm calling from while hosting this webinar is on Lakota land and part of the Oshete Shakuin in the sacred Hiasapa Black Hills. I also recognize that many of you participating in this live webinar or watching this recording come from many places near and far, and I want to acknowledge the traditional lands and the caregivers of those lands that you are on as well. And now it's my honor to introduce David Fleming of the Ojibwe Nation on the topic of revising your way of doing business in these times of COVID. Thank you, David.
You're welcome. Thank you, Hillary, for that introduction. Welcome to our webinar, Resilience, on resilience during this COVID pandemic. As Hillary said, I'm David Fleming, Lac Courte Oreilles, Ojibwe. I'm currently a business instructor at the Lac Courte Oreilles Ojibwe College. Prior to that, a lot of experience in working with entrepreneurs, artists, loan funds, and past 25 years career of helping artists and entrepreneurs get going and turn businesses around, which is what I hope that will help do today for your arts business. As you know, COVID has been with us all year and it's created a lot of disturbances and a lot of challenges. But we know that with challenge comes opportunity. So today, as we go through these slides, I'd like you to reflect on the things that we cover and how they might apply to you in your arts business. There are no solutions. I'm not going to be able to wave a magic wand and make these problems go away or restore your sales to what they were before. But hopefully, after today's discussion, we'll have the power and energy to address some of these challenges and to look for new opportunities and to find the positive in so much negative that's going on in our world right now. Today we'll introduce ourselves. We'll talk about the COVID environment and particularly what it means to arts. What does it mean to your ability to not only generate sales, but what is the perception of buyers? How has elements of our business plan, so to speak, changed in this pandemic? We'll talk about the market shifts. What are consumer preferences doing now? We know that art is generally a disposable income expense. And maybe now is a time where arts thrive. We do see a decrease in art sales. However, maybe through some creative marketing and collaboration, we can turn that around because we know that art is one of the most beautiful things in our world. And at this time, I think we could all use a little of that. And that's a message that I think we can get out there. Talk about the buyer's perceptions. What are they seeing? What are they thinking? What is driving sales down? Is it just an economic consideration, or is it something more than that? We'll talk about creating new interactions. This is essentially what marketing is all about. Marketing a lot of people think that marketing tends to focus on advertisements and making sales, but it's not. Marketing is about creating the interaction. And in the business world, you know, that's usually trading a product or a service for money. And we know that artists, it's a little different. We're exchanging ideas and beliefs and values. So we'll talk about how we can create these new interactions. Then I'll leave you with some tips on how to revise your business plan and what we can do going forward to not only get through this pandemic, but the altered world that will result after it's over, if it ever ends. I'd like to get to know a little bit about you and what you hope to get out of today's webinar. And then in that way, I can make some notes and maybe expand upon certain sections that you find most interesting or relevant. And as always, we form a circle when we gather. So I would like to get to know a little bit more about you. So with that, give us your greeting. Tell me your name, where you're from. It's always fun to let us know a little bit about your artwork, and specifically share with the group what your experience has been so far in 2020. And on a side note, we only have an hour and that goes fast. So be as brief as you can, please. Thank you. Cynthia, looks like you're up first.
Oh, hi. Hi. Wasn't totally ready to be on camera. Hi, I'm Cynthia Masterson, Comanche from Oklahoma, but living in Seattle. And I have had an interesting experience because I've been getting a little more work, but different work, doing video content and online teaching. So it's just been, and virtual market. I did my first virtual market on Saturday. And so it's just been a different experience, just trying to navigate everything. But it's been going better, just different.
Mm-hmm. Better, but different. And that's a wonderful thing to hear, that you have an up instead of a down.
Yeah. Well, and I hope it stays that way, because normally I think holidays is when I do most of my sales. And so, but that's just kind of an unknown what's going to happen. And so I guess for what I would hope to get out of today is, like, when you say business plan, I'm not really sure, like, what is my business plan? And just trying to kind of think ways to think about integrating all of these new things of virtual vending and teaching online and just these different revenue streams. Like, how does that get built into a new plan?
Okay, very good. Thank you. Hillary, if you want to select the next.
Ooh, I get to pick. All right, I'm gonna go with Leslie. I'm digging her background.
Hence Jay, good afternoon. My name is Leslie Deer. I live in Oklahoma. My background, that's my front yard, Hillary. I live out in the middle of nowhere. I am an apparel designer, and at my point in my business, I was mostly marketing and selling through art markets in person. I didn't have a big online presence or anything like that. So obviously, everything came to a grinding halt. I do have a website. I have a couple of things on it, but I'm not really satisfied with my website yet. So I'm not really trying to put it out there a lot. So pretty much I have no sales at this point in time. I'm just kind of trying to figure out which way to pivot. Who's buying clothes now? Who wants clothes? No one's going anywhere. So no one's trying to dress up really. So do I want to create a line of more comfortable clothing? I'm just looking at a lot of different things, and I'm just kind of here to see what's up and get some new ideas and looking at ways to move forward.
Yeah, I think you're probably along the right lines by thinking pajamas are probably going to go up.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you, Leslie.
Evriel, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hiaho, Mitakiape, Ava Cordova, Mia, Malakota, and Taos Pueblo. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ava Cordova. I'm half Taos Pueblo on my father's side. I'm sixth generation from Chief Red Cloud on my mother's side. Today, I am on the lands of Snow Mountain, Paiute, and Moapa in Las Vegas at my daughter's house. I started my own business, AC and Associates, October 2019. Last year, from going from a nonprofit for 14 years to my own business has been a exciting whirlwind, especially with the pandemic. I'm doing consulting for different educational backgrounds. I don't have a business plan yet. I'm working on that. One of the things that I like to say is that I educate, empower, and connect different communities. I'm in the Los Angeles area, so I am working with a lot of collaborators and associates, so I'm excited. I have been doing virtual events such as bingo, online bingo. We had a virtual powwow in Los Angeles, and I'm just doing great work. I got some funding from CRIB, California Indian Rural Health Board, to do a prevention of opioids. So we're doing that, a 4 series through Paku Cultural Communities, and we stream it on Facebook Live. And I'm just excited about the support and I'm trying to learn as much as I can through webinars, and the American Indian Chamber of Commerce also is helping with business planning. So thank you for providing this. Ta'a pilamia gracias. Thank you so much for providing this webinar. I appreciate any and all information that I can get as an entrepreneur.
Okay, thank you, Miigwech.
Oh, thank you.
Looks like last but not least, we have Melody.
Sintamana, Gideana, Melody Williams, Anna, Sherwood Valley, Ka, Anna. So my name, how are you? I'm well today. My name is Melody Williams. I'm from Sherwood Valley Band of Pomo Indians in Northern California. I'm currently living in Humboldt County, which is just a county north of Mendocino, where my tribe is, and the peoples here are Yurok, Hoopa, and Wiyot. So I have a full-time job, but right now due to COVID, I'm working from home, and I just work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so my business is actually a side hustle that I've been working on. And so for my tribe in Mendocino, Lake, and Sonoma County, we have bands of Pomo Indians. So there's about 24 bands. So what we do in the summer months is we have big times, and we have them all, different. Everyone has picked a Saturday, and we've been doing these for many, many years. So a lot of the local natives, this is where we gather to celebrate. And that's where a lot of natives sell their wares. So this year, no one was able to have a big time because of COVID. And so it's forced a lot of people to go online. Some have gone on Facebook. Some have gone to Etsy. So I'm still kind of on the fence about any of that. So I've just been I sell medicine pouches that I weave. So kind of word of mouth. So I just am interested in different ideas, and I'm not, like I said, it's a side hustle, so I'm not that developed yet. Like I don't have business cards or anything, but I'm going to get ready to retire soon. So I kind of want to just, step that up. And I think kind of what you're saying, yeah, people are worried and they're holding on to their money, I think. And so I think they're buying things that are practical and not so frivolous. So my medicine pouches, I really have a lot of orders now because people are, they want to have faith. They want to believe. I put our root in there, angelica root, sage, and it's something that if you have faith, we have faith in our medicine, that I think that is going to help us get through this time. So that's where I am. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, with arts, there's been a decrease in sales, but I think that's going to rebound maybe faster than a lot of the other industries because of its inherent relation to people's desires and feelings and emotions. You tend to gravitate towards music when you're feeling down. You tend to gravitate towards art when you're missing something. So I think we're going to experience a lot of that. And I think that's what I'm trying to get across in our webinar today, is that that's an opportunity that we want to take advantage of while still remaining true to our values and traditions. So thank you very much.
And David, we did have somebody from Facebook Live that quickly just shared some information. I'll share it in the chat box too for everybody, but we have Belle Chase. I'm from Idaho originally, Fort Berthold, Mandan, Hidatsa, Nakra, and Lakota. I'm a bead worker and quill worker and a quilter. Awesome. The hope is to learn more about teaching online, but must know how to safeguard the traditional knowledge.
Exactly. Yep. So that's a path that everybody has to cross on their own. What is shareable, what is not, what is involved, what is not, which reminds me of the Native Artist Professional Development curriculum in general, because today we don't really go through the different parts of the business plan. We cover that in the Native Artist Professional Development, where we spend a lot of time going through what goes into a business plan, and specifically with the revisions that the First Peoples Fund is doing this summer, what is unique about an artist's business plan. So we've streamlined that portion of that curriculum to help an artist develop a business plan that is unique for artists. So that the nuts and bolts of business planning is actually covered in the curriculum. So today what we're talking about is some of the ideas that would result in changes to that business plan. What do we need to think differently about? In other words, what ideas and trains of thought do we have that we need to make adjustments to a business plan? So if you don't have a business plan, don't worry about it. We'll get there. If you want to do a business plan, First Peoples Fund will make opportunities to attend training so that we can help get that going for you. So today we're going to talk about a lot of ideas, thoughts, what's going on, and try to get your own creative juices going on how you pivot. And I love that word that I think Leslie you used. It's a really good way to put it, because that's what we're doing. We're pivoting, we're changing. Something changed in the environment. We can't keep going forward as we used to. So things changed. How do we change? So the agenda then will be the COVID environment, market shifts, buyer perceptions, creating new interactions, and creating a new roadmap. I only have one slide that has anything to do with financial information, and it's actually just an example. So just to give you an idea and a heads up that we will be focusing more on conceptual things that we include in the business plan and not actually working on business plan revisions itself. So I hope that helps. The COVID environment has resulted in a change in a lot of the ways that we're doing business, a lot of the ways that we're interacting with our buyers and our customers and our communities and the people that are interested in the arts that we make. Physically, museums are shutting down, galleries are shutting down, coffee shops aren't letting people sit in them if they don't have enough space, which results in less places, i.e. markets, for us to bring our artwork or to set up performances. Psychologically, people are like, I think it was Cynthia, somebody had mentioned, people are saving their money. They're afraid to spend. Art is non-essential in some people's opinions, right? We all know better. People have perceptions that may or may not be true. They may think that if they buy something online and it gets shipped to them, that it's going to be handled by somebody that has the disease, and now they're afraid that they might get it by receiving this product that doesn't come from a multi-million-dollar corporation that is ensuring that they are providing safe practices. So we'll talk about that. What our buyers' preference is now. The nature of art itself seems to be shifting. I just came from Minneapolis, and where George Floyd had been killed by police, and the art in Minneapolis now reflects that. Like, it was incredible on the graffiti, in the murals downtown, and in the little places that I did see artwork. A lot of it was related to Black Lives Matter. So a lot of our mediums are going to stay the same, but the content will change. Do we shift our art creations to reflect that changing demographic of they want art that is more relates to social justice and racial inequality? Maybe. That's up to you as the artist to decide. But we do know that buyer preferences are changing. Not only their spending habits and their ability to purchase at different price points, but the topic that they want. So we talk about those issues in the full Native Artist Professional Development as well, but we're seeing that. And then finally, and maybe I never like to think that the economics of something is the most important. I like to think of the economics as the result. the changes in society and in the changes of perceptions. But we do want to talk a little bit about the economics of it. So the COVID environment has changed our world in many ways. And I think we all know that, we all see that. And from your stories I hear today, it's evident in what you sell, where you sell, how much you sell. So the COVID environment, what's happening is it's probably going to last for a while. A lot of the data that we found was that most people believe that COVID will continue through January 2021, if not longer. So what does that mean for us? That means whether it happens or not, that's the perception. So that's what we need to base some of our assumptions on. And I'll get to what an assumption is in a minute. But being aware that people think it will last a long time helps us plan for the future as artists. Is it a trend? Is it going to go? Is it going to go back to normal? And in my opinion, it will never go back to normal. We'll have a new normal. So these things and these strategies that you develop today and going forward are something that you'll probably keep as part of your strategy indefinitely. Maybe we won't ever see museums or our favorite museum open again. So we need to be prepared for that. And how do we adjust our strategies to consider that? So consumer behavior has changed and will persist past the pandemic. How do we keep that change that we implement now going? And what can we do to make sure that we're ready for maybe the next pandemic or for this one lasting indefinitely? We need to be aware that all of the expectations and beliefs of our buyers are changing. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about an optimistic scenario and a pessimistic scenario. If things change and go back to normal, great. What happens then? If things get worse, what do we do then? We don't necessarily need to plan for every potential outcome, but we need to be aware that we don't know what's going to happen. So essentially what it is, and I think Hillary and I had a short conversation before we started, and it was a controlled chaos. So that's what we're going to be becoming experts in over the next 12 months, I think, is becoming nimble, flexible, seeing opportunity where everybody else sees challenges. And that is a key thing. Always, as Native people, we know that our beliefs and our values are what carry us through. So we want to be ready with a good mind and a good heart to embrace these challenges and to be ready for them and to keep making our art available and being there. Consumer spending is down. So what does that mean? That means people are losing their jobs, people are getting laid off, people are not spending in any industry like they used to. The government has put a lot of emphasis on keeping the largest corporations' balance sheets healthy. What does that mean for the small businesses? What does that mean for the artists? There is help out there. I couldn't possibly put together a list of all of that today because it's usually unique to your tribal community and or your state. The First Peoples Fund, when we follow up on Wednesday, maybe we can have some more information on if there's any specific resources available. I know there are some, but I didn't include them in this PowerPoint because we only have a limited amount of time. The economic consequences are, as somebody said, that people are saving their money. There's a coin shortage going on right now. Why is there a coin shortage? Well, people throw their coins in a jar and they're not shopping. They're not putting it back into the community. Maybe it is an effort to get rid of cash. I don't know. But we're seeing things change more and more all over. So to spend time spent indoors means that they're spending more time on home entertainment and groceries. So what happens in an environment where some businesses don't do well, other businesses start to do well? For example, say a credit card company is doing really well in 2019, and then something happens and they're not, and their sales and their income goes down. So the credit card company is now experiencing a decrease in sales and they're starting to feel a pinch. On the other hand of that, the collection agency is now seeing an increase in revenue. Because the credit card sales went down, the collection agency revenue is going up. This is a common phenomenon in almost all industries, where if something is going down in one area, something's going to go up in another area. Personally, I was a little surprised to see that art itself had gone down until I realized that art supply sales have gone up. So if art itself isn't selling as much as it used to, but the art supplies are, what does that tell us? That tells us that more people are actually making art themselves. And when people are making art, they go to YouTube, they go to Etsy, they go to eHow. How do I paint that mountain? This is a niche that we can fill as Native artists. Say, okay, I'm not selling as much art, but there's more people that are willing to become artists that could use my expertise, that actually want to hear what I have to say. So how can we think about that, and how can we generate a new revenue stream that replaces the lost sales and actual art or reproductions? So it's all about how we think about these things and how we approach them. Market shifts, passive versus interactive. More people are becoming more interactive. They want to be involved in making art. I also found some data that suggests that there's been an increase in music instrument sales. In fact, when I was walking down a main street recently, one business that was open later was the music sales shop, and there were a lot of people in there. I mean, they're all wearing masks, and I'm sure it was safe. But the point is, they're in there because they want to bring those instruments home and start playing themselves. They have more time. They have more free time. So what does that mean? How can we take advantage of that shift? Price point shifts. There's a lot of recommendations out there for artists to decrease their costs. Now, in the Native Artist Professional Development Manual, when we talk about that, we say never do that. Don't do that. You know, what happens when one buyer buys something for 100 and then, you know, a week later you sell a similar piece for 90? Well, that first buyer might become a little miffed. That's doing business as normal, right? And these aren't normal times. So maybe we do cut prices. Maybe we do offer discounts now, and just because things aren't normal. So the way we used to do things, maybe we don't do them that way anymore. So there is a price point shift, and a lot of artists and a lot of art companies, like goldenbracelets.com has a bunch of bracelets they sell, and they're made, you know, some of them are machine made, some of them are just factory made, some of them are handmade. Across the board though, 10% discount on all of their materials. And in the music shop I was walking by, there was a 15% decrease in all sales as well. So it's a price point shift. So maybe we can regain our sales simply by lowering prices. Maybe it's a COVID sale, whatever you want to call it. Again, it's just about being creative and however you want to approach it. Are there more or less buyers out there right now? So we know that the economic conditions are telling us that there are less buyers. But maybe it's a price point, and maybe it's a marketing thing. Because the museums aren't open, the gift shops aren't open, you know, our casinos in my area just recently reopened, and we never really saw much art there anyway. But maybe that will come back. And maybe as we market and create more relationships with other artists, that I'll get you in a while, maybe we can bring that back, if not nationally, you know, at least in our own community, for our own niche, for our own group, our own Native artist segment. Maybe there'll be an increase there. I know one thing is that there's been an increased focus on spirituality and faith-based things, as people sit home and have a lot of time on their hands and wondering, why did I work so hard? Now I'm home, I don't know what to do with myself. What am I missing in my life? I'd like to think that we can fill that void with art. And I think that for a lot of people and a lot of artists, you can make that happen. And that's going to be an interaction. That's going to be an exchange that you're going to want to create. The trick is for us to find out how. And again, I can't tell you exactly how to create those exchanges because everybody's different. You need to find your way that you interact with people in a non-physical way right now. So maybe it's Facebook, maybe it's Instagram, maybe it's emails, maybe it's phone calls. I have a landline on my phone, and the only one that ever uses it is my car. Apparently has an out-of-date warranty, and my mother. So nobody hardly calls me on that one. And then location. That is a tough one because a lot of us were only selling in a physical place, and that's where we're most comfortable. Since that's not possible now, and maybe not for a little while yet, we're going to need to get out of our comfort zone. And maybe we need to bring in our nephew or niece or somebody that's really good at the online stuff to do that for us or help us with it. So we know that art is filling a need for people right now. A lot of creative outlets are happening. With the increase in sales of art supplies, a lot of people coming home and making their art, seeing art being used in response to social justice and racial inequality, so on and so forth. We know that people are turning to art as a way to express things, a way to have an outlet, a creative outlet, which is extremely important during times like this. So there's a market shift, and all you need to do is look around, look in your community, look on your Facebook group, on your pages, talk with your friends, talk with anybody, have a phone call with somebody who you know dabbles in art or is related, and say, hey, what have you been noticing? What do you see? And this is, in its most fundamental form, a form of market research. And that's all this is. The market research that you do just by looking around and being aware is what you're going to use to change your business plan. Say, hey, I noticed this is going on, and here's how I think I can capitalize on that. Warren Buffett is really big in the business world. The Oracle of Omaha is most famously quoted as saying, if you really want to make a solid investment, don't look at a balance sheet. Go out in your community, take a drive, look around, see what people are doing, see what people's preferences are, what's changing, what's a fad, what's a trend. You know, where do you see an opportunity, and invest in that. And the same thing needs to happen now. Is what are people looking for now? You know, we know that they're not coming in and buying my keychains from the glass case like they used to, but you know, they still want something like that. How can we let them know? People are searching for activities to entertain children. Schools are being closed. Social media, of course, is important. Arts and craft dealers are considered more of an essential. There was a limit on how much art supplies you could buy at my local Walmart because they were selling out so quick. This comes from MPI. All of the things that I found for this webinar are from this year, from March and later. So the information that are on here is relevant and up to date. There's a lot of self-isolation. So when people are home and they're isolated and they're not interacting with other people and they're looking for art as a creative outlet, a lot of times they just want to purchase it and have it. But a lot of times they want to get engaged. So how can we engage with this location of not being able to actually be there? How can we engage them? Here's some good ideas that came from Artwork Archive. Participate in an online art class. So who are we? We're not the participants of an online art class. Well, not usually. We're the teachers, or you are the teachers. You are the ones that have skills and knowledge that other people are yearning for right now. So I think maybe it was Cynthia, somebody had said, well, I'm doing more workshops instead of actually, you know, selling stuff. That's a prime example. Sharing resources and art and fundraisers with your own circles. You know, now is a really good time to up the collaboration. And remember, in the arts world, we don't have competitors. We have collaborators. So the business world is all about competition, dog eat dog. And we know that as we talk with our Native artist community, it's not about competition, it's more about collaboration. So now is the time to really up that. How can you do that? Offer emotional support. A lot of people out there are feeling it, you know, and who better to get support than from an artist, somebody they know and respect. That can be key. Attend exhibits and exhibitions online. And that's a good idea for you to do, to see how people are doing that and what makes an online exhibit or exhibition exciting. And then, you guessed it, take a shot at having your own. Have your own online exhibit. What does that look like? Is it interactive? You know, is it a video? You know, YouTube, you make your own YouTube video, put it out there and exhibit all your stuff and share it all over the place, send it to your friends, and just instead of the time that we used to spend driving to the market or the powwow or whatever it was, now we spend time doing it online or through another method. And on a side note, I keep saying online, but again, there are lots of ways if you get creative to do it without being technically savvy. Phone calls, you know, the old things in the mail still work. And I got a letter from a friend the other day in the mail. I haven't gotten a real letter in years. I'll tell you what, I was tickled pink. I had it in my hand. It was different. It was fun. So that kind of stuff can make a big difference. If you have kept a a list of people that have bought for you. Now is the time to get that out. Now is the time to get that out and actually start sending them stuff. Hopefully they'll share it. Some word of mouth, as somebody mentioned, has always been one of the best ways to create those interactions that we want to generate in the future. Donate to the arts if you can. When you donate, share that. Tell people you did that. That encourages them to do the same. And then that creates that circular economy where they're donating, I'm donating, it's coming back, it's getting people involved, they're excited about it, they have that story to tell. In the Native Artist Professional Development curriculum, we always talk about how important that story is when we're talking about our art. People don't buy just the art, they buy the story. They're buying part of you, they're buying part of your vision. This is a good time to work on that story and to get it out there and to increase that story. And then especially, that's why I wanted to open up with an introduction about your experience in 2020. What is your COVID story? How has it affected your arts? That generates interest. Buy directly from an artist online. That's the low-hanging fruit, right? Sign up a commission with your favorite artist. I think I have a slide on that somewhere coming up. That's a little trickier. That's collaborating. It's a collaboration, but you can't just collaborate behind the scenes. Again, these are marketing things that you want to do. Of course, you can collaborate behind the scenes for your own personal development, whatever. But those collaborations, if you make those public and let people know about that, that creates a sense of community that all of us want to be a part of. So what we're trying to do is bring people in to the sense of community while everybody's home self-isolated. It's a tricky thing to do, but very possible. And a lot of the most successful artists and businesses out there right now are doing that. In fact, you're seeing a lot of commercials come online where, oh, you're stuck at home and they're wearing face masks and people are like, oh, hey, look, that's what's going on with me right now. And marketers know that, corporations know that. They know that people are interested. They know they want to be part of something. So we got to create something for people to be part of now, more so than we did before. Encourage your friends and family at home to get involved in a virtual art experience. It's that simple. I'm sure that we all do it in some form, but again, up it. You know, make a little meme, make a little flyer, put it on your Facebook, put it on your Etsy, share it, talk about what you happened, talk about how you did it, get input from other people, get their feedback, share that, and then just beat the hell out of it. Because we kind of have to think creatively. We're going to try a lot of things, and some of them may work and some may not work. But, you know, the old saying goes is the student has, the master has failed more times than the student has even tried. You know, so we're gonna fall down a lot, but you fall down 99 times, you get back up 100, right? So try a lot of things, see what works, see what doesn't work, share it. Let your other artists know what worked, what didn't work. So it's all about communication now in times of isolation and in times of COVID pandemics. So people as buyers now, if we're actually getting out there, they do have concern with contact. They have concern with coming into contact with a disease. I have an uncle who won't let nobody come to the house, and if you get close, he sprays you down with a super squirter full of bleach, so nobody comes and visits him anymore. Because there's, you know, that's just one extreme, you know, and some people walk around without masks and don't give up. So perceptions that are out there are varying with certain levels of concern. So, but we do need to be aware. Art helps people deal with COVID. We know that. We're seeing a lot of research from psychology today and other areas that art is giving people hope. It's giving people an idea of values. It's lightening the darkness that is coming with all of this environment that we're now in. Music and art, you know, I mean, those are what always have separated us from other parts of nature. We are very creative people. We have outlets, and that's not unique or singular to artists. All people have that. You know, they just do it in different ways. So art, I think, you know, and this is my personal opinion, is that art will rebound and come back faster than other industries. And we're also seeing, part of my reason for belief of that is we're seeing a new appreciation for the arts and how much people gravitated towards it. When March came around and my kids were sent home from school, one of the first things I did was like, okay, let's go to the store and buy a bunch of canvases and crayons and paints. And you know what? I wasn't the only one that thought that. They were sold out. Everybody was home painting and drawing for those first few weeks. Do you remember? And then all of a sudden people got kind of sick of it because we weren't there. We weren't there to keep encouraging them and to keep motivating them and to build this community. But We still have that chance because this isn't ending anytime soon. So people are coming in terms with what's going on now. And as they turn to art, we really do want to make sure that we are there for them. So we need to create these opportunities. And I'm a big fan of the people still go to the grocery store. People still make it to the post office once in a while. Now is a really good time to bring back those flyers. You know, we used to get away from flyers for a while there, you know, taking up paper, and it was an old medium, ineffective. It's better to have a TikTok account now or whatever. Well, let's go back to that. Let's go back to making some posters. Let's go back to whatever you think might work, and let's see if it does. So shopping has become limited, but this slide talks about brands and companies. You just replace that word with artist or my artwork. You need to adapt, and we need to become flexible. So that's a big part of it. People are changing how they're buying. You know, Amazon, I think Jeff Bezos is making something like $3 billion a week now. You know, if back in January, if we would have known what was up, you know, buy some Amazon stock or something, because everybody's buying online now. So we kind of have to follow suit. We don't know what's going to happen with the brick and mortar retail outlets. So we need to have some online presence. If you don't already, you got to have something at least, if not completely online presence only. We'll see what happens when things reopen. But what we want to do, and this is some practical advice, is, you know, we talk about artist statements, we talk about mission statements, we talk about describing our work. Now we need to add something else. We need to add our COVID precautions. If you haven't done those yet, develop them. If you don't know how to do that, listen to an Arby's commercial on TV. It can be that short. Domino's, contact free. We're not going to touch your stuff, you know. Some places don't even take cash anymore, which is really frustrating. But the COVID prevention practices do one thing. They do provide that safety net for yourself from the actually, you know, not transmitting COVID, but it does something else more important. It lets your potential customers, your community, and your people know that you care, that you have respect for them and for yourself. And that is now going to become part of your message as it goes out there. So if you don't have COVID prevention practices or remediation practices, you can mimic someone else and get some, and then let people know that you think about it, that it's on your radar. Then, hey, you know, we're all part of this. Here's what I'm doing to help reduce the transmission of COVID, and that will go a long way. So there, as we talked about, music in particular has always brought people together. It benefits us. 45 minutes on an art project can release stress, strengthen critical thinking skills, and improve and sustain memory. These are the things that people are noticing during this isolation and lockdown. They're realizing the benefits that not only creating art, but simply viewing and having art in their life does for them. You know, some people are afraid to go on walks these days, so they really are sitting home. And they're more and more, they're realizing, hey, you know, this art that's in my house is really what's making me happy. Or look at this art that I'm seeing on TV. And I got into bracelet making this summer. And now of course, my Facebook feed's full of bracelet advertisements. But at the same time, I'm kind of happy because they're cool. And it really does lift my spirits. I'm like, that's a really good one. I'm going to do something like it. I'm not going to copy it, right? I'm inspired by it. So they're getting inspired. And that's what we need to do. We need to become the inspiration for people during this time, because that's always what artists have done. So now is not our time to worry about low sales. Now is our time to shine. Now is our time to say, hey, we're all in this together. You know, let's do it in an artistic and creative way. Let's not focus on the negative. Let's focus on the positive. Focus on the beauty in the life, not the ugliness. It's always a good mantra to have, but now it's even more needed, I think. Viewing art causes a sensation similar to falling in love. And I think, you know, we know that already, but other people are starting to realize that. So without a daily dose of nature, art can help. So these two slides are something that you should take from this and include those into your message. Let people know how much art means to them. And they'll know, it'll resonate right away. It's inherent in human nature. So we just need to get that message out there. So what I'm talking about here in these buyer's perceptions is that we're changing our marketing message just a little bit. Where before we used to focus on content, medium, my history, my values, what I produced. We want to add an element now of community. We want to add an element of concern for each other. And that's something that I think every industry and every community needs to hear more of right now. But these are things that are going to help resonate, and they're going to give us strength as well. What is this? New realities, creative forces help us think outside the box and use innovation to keep our connection and make it work together. And the reason that I like what We Forum had said is that it provides that internal reasoning that to do more, to be involved. It gives us a strength to do more and to get it out there and communicate with our potential buyers and our communities and everybody that we come in contact with. The innovation that we come up with as artists is going to be what defines the new world of art when we come out of this pandemic. The things that we come up with, that you come up with, may set the standards. You may come up with something so original that everybody copies you, and all of a sudden, hey, you know, first person that did this was you, because you tried something and it worked really well. And my point on that one is just, let's try to be innovative and creative and then get it out there. So we need to find a way to interact with buyers and people now that we couldn't do before. So it relates to marketing. Marketing has always been about interactions. How do we maintain our level of interactions or sales? In other words, if we're seeing a loss of income from a certain type of sale, what can we do, in other words, to get that level back up? And I'll have a little chart that shows it's not about how the income comes in, it's about the total income that is coming in. So I remember hearing somebody had said, your art sales is supplemental to your main income. Well, let's try to keep that supplemental income coming. If it's your primary source of income, then we definitely need to keep that income coming, because what are we going to do without it? So how do we keep these interactions going? The short of it is we have to spend more on marketing, and that's always the case. As I teach business classes and I see other managers that don't really have a lot of marketing experience, they're looking at their income statement and they're saying, look, if I cut my marketing here, if I cut my advertising here, I can increase my revenue, 20%. And I'm always saying, no, that's faulty thinking. Marketing drives sales. It's easy to cut it because you don't always have a direct relation. X amount of dollars results in X amount of sales. Sometimes it's not that easy. So it's easy to look like you can cut marketing and then keep your sales up and increase your net income. And that's generally not true. What we need to do in this time is to put a little more money into that marketing effort. Maybe that means spending money on, the Facebook premium service or whatever it is. Maybe it means hiring your nephew to develop an Instagram page for you, which is super simple, by the way. Or have somebody, set up some accounts for you, do your PayPal for you. Maybe you got to open up a checking account for the new e-commerce platform you decided to use. Whatever it is, now is the time to look at those investments and to increase them with a grain of salt, because if the sales don't generate, we have the increased expense. So this is a fine line to walk, and it's going to be up to you. Well, how much can I increase my marketing? All I can say is do not decrease marketing at this point. If you can, increase it, but do not decrease it. Now is not the time for that. Now is the time to actually up it, because we're going to try new things, which is going to mean new investment. A lot, and as we talk about in our professional development, it doesn't always need to be cash. Creative thinking. I'm a big trader. Like I trade my bracelets. I think I've only sold one bracelet and I've given away 20 so far, but I got a lot of stuff for them, right? And very little money has actually exchanged hands. Requires sensitivity to what's going on in people's lives and flexibility. So again, we just want to be aware of how people are feeling, and hopefully you kind of are getting an idea of what's going on out there in people's perceptions. Some artists are already producing campaigns. Dove created a spot shining a light on the courage of health workers. You know, maybe we could do something like that. Storytelling. If we have any storyteller artists, now is a really good time for them, because people, you know, the movie theaters were shut down for a while. They weren't even making movies. You didn't hear very much new music. What a great time to listen to stories, especially with the snow coming. In my area, we only tell stories when the snow blankets the earth. So really good time coming up for our storytellers in our area. And again, the most important question artists can ask yourselves, and this goes along with your COVID prevention techniques, is what can you do to help? How can you buy into that community? How can you show people you care? And that's all going to relate back to what you're doing on the ground in terms of trying to generate art sales and produce more. And I know I didn't say anything about it yet, but if you have the time, or if you can go with the low sales right now, now's a really good time to be creative and produce and to develop and increase your portfolio. Write a new song, do some new paintings, come up with some new beadwork styles, whatever it is. Now's a really good time for that if you have that ability. Most of us don't. Most of us need to keep that income coming in. So that's why we want to try to revise this business plan right now. People are working from home. There's a conversation that for all its emphasis on online bells and whistles, the art market remains at its heart an in-person enterprise, right? So we know that people have always connected with us as artists better when we're in person, when we're at our booth, when we're at our show, when we have it in our hands and we're talking about that. We need to find a way to do that without actually being there. Super tricky, but possible, because people are doing it all over the place, and that's going to be everybody's only option at this point. So here's an example of how one guy created some interactions out of it with a new idea. He sold 2 pieces for $200 or 200 pounds. He's in Europe. And every time he sells one, he agrees to buy another artist's work, or he sells $1,000 worth and he agrees to buy another artist's work, right? So he sells 5 of them at 200, gets $1,000, and he says, oh, I got 1,000 in sales. I'm going to take 200. I'm going to buy somebody else's artist's work. So what's the point of that? Why is that a good marketing strategy? And the answer is what I've been saying. It creates that sense of community. It creates that sense of we're all in this together, that we care, that we share. You know, if anything, the COVID pandemic has highlighted how much respect or disrespect certain people have for each other in our communities and in our areas. So what we're doing is saying we are, you know, we're Native artists. We always support each other. We always care about each other. And here's how we're going to do it. So this is I thought was a really good example of how somebody had tried to take that concept and used it for art. He said, you know, if I get $1,000 in sales, I'm going to buy $200 worth of somebody else's artist. That's a nice story. That's a good thing to know about that artist. And again, that's something that people want to be a part of. So all of these ideas that we need to generate, these new creative outlets, these new platforms, whatever it is, we're going to translate that into a number. And in the business plan, and again, I apologize if you haven't been to our development series and haven't gone over our business planning section yet. You will, I hope. But we all summarize that in the financial statements. So what we do when we generate these financial statements is we make assumptions, and assumptions are what drive it. So if you had $5,000 in sales for the last 3 years, you say, well, I'm going to make the assumption that I'm going to have $5,000 in sales next year, right? Well, right now, that would be a faulty assumption, right? Because the environment changed. I'm not going to have $5,000 in sales this year because all the places that I sold at are closed. So now the new assumption is I'm going to have $0 in sales because everything's closed. I mean, that's a very pessimistic assumption, but you get the idea. We need to adjust what we assume to be true and what worked in the past. What needs to change now? And then it's even trickier because our new assumptions are going to be based on untested ideas and untested theories. To me, that's super exciting. To other people, that's really scary. So you need to find out how much you want to test and how much you want to try to see what worked before and what will still work now with maybe a different package or whatever it is. The idea is we need to look at our assumptions that we had in the past. What changed about those assumptions? What new assumptions do we need to make going forward? Then we adjust our sales forecasts, and then we adjust what we think we're going to do in expenses. I'm not talking about balance sheet stuff. I'm not talking about cash flow stuff. I'm not talking about any of that. For the business plan revisions, essentially, you want to relook at that marketing section. You want to look at your operations. You want to look at your sales forecasts. And a lot of that other stuff, those are the details we can work out later. What we need right now is big picture thinking. Your business plan needs to be revised according to your overall strategy, your big picture. Essentially, we keep our vision true. We know what we are. We know what we're doing. But now we need to find how we're going to create these new interactions and what assumptions are we going to change going forward. So what I recommend is look at your last 3 years of sales records. If you don't have records, now's a good time to start guess. If you didn't keep a record, you don't have a checkbook or whatever, just guess at what they were. It's fine. The only one that cares is me and you. And I just want you to do your best guess. If you have actual records, absolutely use those. So write down what your new assumptions are on where, what, and how we will sell. Maybe your assumption is, I'm not going to make anything new. I'm only going to teach online workshops for the next year. That's a very valid assumption. So then, okay, well, how many can I do? How much can I charge? Can I do them on my own? Do I need to find somebody to host me? Whatever it is. I write those down. There's a strong temptation to be really optimistic with your assumptions because we all want the best for us. But I'm going to tell you that sometimes we over optimistic and then we either set ourselves up for a big letdown and or we create an unrealistic vision, which is no good. I like to say we want to get our assumptions to be as close to reality as they really will be. A lot of entrepreneurs tend to be overly conservative. They'll downplay their revenues and then overestimate their expenses. And again, that's the opposite side of faulty thinking. We want to try to be as realistic as we can. So you're going to want to do a little research on what the costs will be to develop your new ideas. What do you think is really going to happen with your sales, depending on your lost opportunities and your lost venues or whatever it is. And then just make your best realistic guess. And then I like to say, sometimes make a optimistic one and make a pessimistic one, and then meet in the middle. In project management, that's actually a strategy. They say, here, make your most optimistic view, make your most pessimistic view, and then your most realistic one. And then you give the optimistic one 25% chance, pessimistic 25% chance, and 50% chance of hitting it right on. And then you run those numbers, and then you go, okay, there's my average, depending on whatever those numbers are. If that makes sense to you, I love you. If it doesn't make sense to you, come to our business planning workshop. We'll talk about it. So then when you do make these new projections going forward, look at it constantly, because as this environment changes, we need to look at those projections constantly as well, because we don't know what's going to happen. This pandemic may be lifted before Christmas because all of a sudden the government says we don't want pandemic during Christmas sales season, so all of a sudden there's no holds barred. Or it could be we're locking down again because it's going out of control and nobody can leave their house for 60 days. Whatever happens, whether there's a big change or no change, we're going to need to look at these assumptions and these numbers going forward and see if they're on or if they're off, and then make adjustment again going forward. And all this is going to do is give you a roadmap going forward. Say, this isn't working, this is working, and it helps you visualize where your time and energy is best spent. So look at it frequently, at least monthly, to make adjustments. Some people do it daily, weekly, but at least monthly. And it looks a little. Oh, yes. Before I get to that, what that sales forecast might look like. If you're wondering what to do with a projection, online art sales anticipated to decline 8.8%. That's not very much. So if you had $1,000 in art sales last year online, so this year you're going to have $920, something like that. Don't check my math. So that would be an easy way to start. Just say, well, I'm just going to expect a 10% decrease. What's driving that assumption? I don't know. David said it's in the webinar that I watched the other day. Good enough for now. And then go for a month, go for a couple months. And if that's true, great. And if it's not, what was wrong with that assumption? And then create a new assumption. So that's what we're always doing. We're testing our old ideas and our new ideas and see what really works. And that's so important. So here's what I thought like an imaginary new sales forecast might look like. So say I had original sales. Say I sell some reproductions of these sales. I do some lessons and I offer some workshops. So I got 4 revenue streams here now, right? In 2017, I had 22,000 based on these categories here. At workshops, I did 1, then I did 2, then I did 4, the lessons, I did so much, started to do a little better. The reproductions kind of bounced around, but I had steady growth in my original sales, and all of a sudden, bam, 2020 hits. based on, we're already halfway through the year, so it should start to give you a good idea if you exclude the first 3 months of the year, which when things were kind of relatively normal, start to give you an idea what you can expect for 2020. Do you think that the pandemic will continue into 2021? I don't know. Nobody knows. It could. But as we're seeing from those first slides, most consumer beliefs are that it will, that the pandemic will continue into 2021. Sales aren't driven on reality. Sales are always driven on consumer perceptions. So it doesn't matter if it continues or not. Consumers generally believe it will. So that's going to affect their spending habits now and in the future. So we always want to remember that. So when you're looking at 2021, what's going to happen? Do an optimistic view and do a pessimistic view. Add in new revenue streams. Hopefully you're doing that. You know, what other ways can I generate income to keep my sales, my art business alive? And then 2022. And then if you want, break this down by month. You know, we always recommend that because a lot of artists had heavy sales in the summertime, and you know, in the wintertime, they tend to work on their portfolio and do more stuff. So you can break it down by month, like like the Denver March powwow got canceled, and that was a big bummer. And you know, all these festivals are being canceled, and all these shows are being canceled. I don't know what's happening with Santa Fe Art Market. That's probably canceled too. I don't know. Everything's being canceled, so we're losing all these revenue and all these venue streams. So we want to build a projection on new sales forecasts. And again, it's a really good exercise just to get you thinking. Just piece of paper, start it out and say, here's what I did last 3 years. Here's what I think I should do the next 3 years. And that'll get you going. And I didn't do an expense one here just because they're so long. And you can do your own. What were your expenses? And do the same thing in the past. You know, what were your expenses in the last 3 years? What do you think your expenses will be forward? And if you're taking good notes, you'll know that your marketing expense line should either stay the same or go up. We're probably going to need to invest a little bit more at this point. And then finally, I wanted to leave you with this quote from Mike Egan, because one thing that we have as Native artists is passion, obsession, and desire. We have our values. We have the reason that most of us get into this isn't to make a buck. But it's nice when we can. Most of us get into it for more personal reasons. It's part of our vision, part of our heritage as a culture bearer. These things will never go away. The galleries might, Etsy might shut down as a page, who knows. But our vision and our person is always going to be here. So we have to navigate, shift, change, pivot, and come up with new ideas going forward. So in conclusion, it looks like I went a little over, but a little thought can go a long way. And really that's what it is. What we see a lot of artists doing is just going and reacting. You know, we really got to sit down and meditate, reflect, fast, dream, and say, what can I do? Think about it. That's always been a strength. Things change, or simply identify the new threats and new opportunities. As I said with the credit card thing, credit card sales go down, but collection agencies go up. So as these things go down, what's the other side of it is going up. And hopefully by now you've already got an idea of maybe some ideas that you can do to take advantage of the shifting behavior of people right now. Plan for a new normal. I don't think it'll go back to the way it was. Personally, I don't think it should go back to the way it was. I think this is an opportunity for us to grow the arts as a more dominant presence in people's lives. And I hope that you guys want to be a part of that. Remain flexible, positive, and open-minded. I should have keep a strong heart in there too, because that's important as well. Okay, Hillary, I think if anybody has any questions, now is the time.
Well, thanks so much, David. I'm looking on Facebook Live. Currently, I do not have any questions to share at the moment. I think everybody's still, like a metaphorical sponge and soaking it all in. But while people are thinking about it on Facebook Live, feel free, all the participants that are in our Zoom call, to unmute yourself and feel free to ask David any questions you have.
I have a question. Jackie Nunez.
Hi, Jackie.
How are you? I think I just got on, so I must have got the time all messed up, but the last part was excellent, so I can only imagine that it was great. I think what I'm having a problem with as a storyteller is coming up with the new normal of what's the price to charge for a 1-hour virtual meeting? So it's, you know, ranging anywhere from like $250 to $800, you know. So for me, it's like I've kind of in my own head come up with $300 for schools. And if I stay, and if the same day they do another virtual, I'm going to charge $150. But I don't want to short sell myself either. You know,
Right.
when you're there at a school, you know, you're getting $600 an hour. So now we're dropping halfway. Okay, that's the new normal. I'm okay with that. But what are other people charging, and how do you get the normal 1-hour virtual, you know, price? That's where I'm struggling.
So what you want to do is see if your price before has resulted in lesser sales. So in other words, you know, people weren't spending as much. You as a storyteller in your market is a little different in that a lot of schools, like I teach at a tribal college, and they actually received money through COVID to spend on COVID mediation. And in our tradition, a storyteller would be perfect for that. So there's a new market that may have opened up. And if you caught it earlier, it's now is a time for a little trial and error. We used to talk about not reducing prices because it decreased your brand value and or upset previous buyers. However, now that times are different, maybe a price cut isn't as appropriate. However, before you price cut, you know, keep your prices where you think they should be and see how people react for as long as you can bear it. And then, you know, what you probably want to do is reach out to these new markets that are emerging. Storytelling, I think, is going to be an extremely valuable resource for schools, institutions, community groups, as people are looking for creative outlets and looking for things to do. Like I was saying, I don't know if you caught it or not, but they haven't been making movies lately, or I think they just restarted a couple weeks ago. Well, what a great opportunity for a storyteller to come in, right? So try new things, try in terms of regular pricing, keep them where they're at for now and see what the reaction is. If you think that it's the price that's discouraging people from paying for your stories, then that's something you want to look at. However, my intuition is that it isn't your price so much as it is with the marketing, reaching out, finding ways to reach them, trying to get your message out there, because I think that there's probably an increased demand for storytellers at this time. I'm not 100% because I haven't done the research on that specific medium, but yeah. So keep your prices not the same for now is my recommendation, and really just kind of get word out there and try to find new markets.
Yeah, and to me, oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. To me, I kept saying, well, I don't have to leave my home. I stay in this one room. I feel like I should give them a cut because I don't have to travel there, set up. I'm saving my time. Everybody has jumped at the price thinking $300 was a great deal. So I actually had cut my prices in half, but I think maybe I could go up just a little bit. I don't want to gouge anybody. I want to, you know, I wanted to make it work for everyone. So
yeah, well, consumer spending is down. We know that. So but institutional and small business spending is down too because their incomes are down. However, institutional nonprofits and other those actually sometimes are seeing a little increase. So maybe you just need to switch from who you traditionally had sold to or who was traditionally paying for you to come and speak. Maybe it's a different group of people that will pay the same and or more. So you got to experiment. We got to try new things right now. Now is the time where we got to get out of our comfort zone for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Oh, David, somebody on Facebook Live, Belle actually said, pricing is my biggest hurdle. I want to share my knowledge, but I don't want to overcharge and I don't want to shortchange myself. So it seems like that's a big topic.
Well, we spend a lot of time on pricing in the artist professional development. And all I can say on pricing is that the price that sets the people's perception of your value. I used to hold up two pencils. And I would say, this pencil here, I got for 20 cents. But this pencil here, I got this one this one cost me $20. You know, so this is my awesome pencil. Fact of the matter is, they're both just pencils. But because this one costs $20, people think that it has more value. So when you start cutting your prices, people perceive that it's now less valuable. I sell my bracelets for $45 and I go online and I see comparable ones for 20. I don't lower my prices. I say, mine are special. Mine are better. Even though it could be the exact same material, you know, but it's got my vision in it. So I don't know if that helps, but we cover a lot of pricing in the manual, but pricing is tricky, and you always want to try to get a little more, and you never want to undersell yourself. So just remember that. Sure, you may have a sale, sure, things happen, but for the most part, we want to be consistent with our pricing. Right now, even, there's a good reason to lower prices right now because of the pandemic and because of things like that. So it's a little different situation, but you still want to be really careful. And all I can say is, look at your total sales and your total costs and make sure that you're not selling for less than your cost. And again, try not to be selling things where you're only making $1 an hour or something like that. And again, just see what other people are doing too. I think that's one of our strategies we recommend in the book is to, what are other people doing? What are other comparable artists of similar media styles and similar reputation? What are they doing with their sales right now? So always start
Do you
there.
have a book? Excuse me, do you have a book that I missed?
Yeah, it's the Native Artist Professional Development. It's the curriculum that the First Peoples Fund trains on normally. So this is kind of like an appendum to that. So what I was doing with this webinar was giving ideas on how to change those business plans. But Jackie, I didn't get into a lot of specifics on pricing today. There are some resources out there, and I think Hillary and I can follow up with you afterwards to maybe direct you to something that's more useful.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, this is Cynthia here. I had a question around messaging and marketing when you're doing different things. So I'm under one hat, I'm teaching just online regular lessons, and under another hat, I'm creating video content, writing scripts and filming and editing. And then I'm doing jewelry and vending and selling jewelry and beadwork. And so when you're marketing, when you're doing all these different things, kind of like I'm not really sure if there's, how do you get consistent messaging, I guess, when you're doing so many different things?
Well, it sounds like you're wearing many hats. So are you doing it all under the same umbrella, so to speak?
Yes, all under Blue Dot Beadwork.
Okay, so within Blue Dot Beadwork, one of the first things you might want to do right now is revise your mission statement and/or artist statement to reflect this current situation, and then make that public. And what that'll do is that'll give you something that is similar throughout your different mediums and your different offerings. And then how can you incorporate that? And if that's not enough, it's always helpful to list down a set of values that is important to you or your business. And that when you market with people, go back to those values and include those words. I like to generate a lot of buzzwords, or what I call trigger words that that are popular right now, or that people like to, or that sound good, or are very positive. And then we keep using those words. And in that way, you can keep your message consistent, but always trying to relate it back to your mission. Does that make sense? Does that help?
That does help, because I don't really have a mission statement.
Yeah, right there, right there. What is it?
So that's a great place.
So the mission statement isn't like, I'm in business to make $10,000 a year. It's a horrible mission statement. The mission statement is what draws you to this work. What is interesting, and where does your passion for it come from? What do you want people to know that's unique about your business? And then in the end, what do you hope to accomplish with this business? I always say sales are a byproduct. The net income is a byproduct of what we're really trying to do. In the end, businesses are here to satisfy a need that a community has. We need food, we need clothing, we need art, we need shelter. And businesses are supposed to be to provide those needs and provide for those wants. And the differences among businesses are that they do it in different ways and in a way that one person might like, but another person doesn't like. Like one person sells red cars, another person sells blue cars. Well, all the people that like blue cars go there, and all the people that like red cars go there. So what is unique about you and the demand that you're satisfying, that people will want to come to you? And I know that's a lot to think about. So what you might want to do is write it out long, get it all in there, and then wordsmith it. You know, just keep reworking it like a poet does until it makes sense, and it's down to about a paragraph. And then you should have something that you can live with, and then get that out there. Put it on all your stuff, and make sure that everything that you do put out relates to that in some way. And then that should help give you some unity amongst your different outlets.
Yes, that is helpful. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'm from the little village of New Post on the Lac Courte Oreilles Reservation in northern Wisconsin. I really want to thank you for listening and for taking the time to let me share with you what little I know about how we can be proactive and engaged during this time. Any follow-up questions or comments you may have, you can direct them to Hillary or on the page here. And if there are no other questions, I want to say Gigawaba Min. Best wishes. I hope to see your artwork out there. And with luck, I'll run across your new Facebook page. Hey.
Yeah, thank you so much, David. Yeah, if anybody does have any questions, yeah, feel free to reach out to me. I will share my email through Zoom and Facebook Live, but also we do have our virtual office hour on Wednesday. Tentatively, it is from 3 to 4 p.m. Mountain Time, but we'll definitely get confirmation by tomorrow. So definitely if you registered for the event through Zoom or have it said that you're going or interested on our Facebook event, we will be updating the time if we need to. So yes, please definitely bring your questions to Wednesday. It's going to be a little shorter version of the presentation that David just shared today, as well as some of the information that we said that we get back to you on during this presentation. So thank you again, everybody, for supporting FPF, for supporting our awesome trainers like David. And we really hope that this helped help some people out, and we look forward to seeing you on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
you're very welcome. Gigawaba Min, Minawa.
Bakasyonan. Un palo.